You've seen Tennessee a little bit this year. Tell us about that.
I think probably our crew is as well versed to talk about this game as anybody. 2 weeks ago we had Oklahoma. Last week we had Tennessee. This one worries me. If I'm an Oklahoma fan, I am worried because this is a terrible matchup. And everybody wants to talk about Nico, and everybody wants to talk about the Oklahoma defense, and rightfully so. Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman, two of the best in the country. That's a great matchup. But to me, that really doesn't have relevance over what happens in this game. To me, it's the opposite. The Oklahoma offense on Tennessee defense. Because Tennessee, they're a playoff team and a legit national championship contender this year because of their defense, because of the physicality they have up front, because they'll press you outside the line of scrimmage. They'll take away space. And this Oklahoma offense hasn't been able to do anything. Their offensive line has been banged up. They can't run the football unless it's Jackson Dart. Nick Anderson and Andrew Anthony have been out. They haven't been able to throw the football. No one's been winning on the outside for Jackson Arnold. So to me, when I look at this, I go, man, if Jackson Arnold doesn't put on a Superman cape, run for 100 yards, and also throw a couple of touchdowns, I honestly don't think Oklahoma has a chance. I think this could be one that Tennessee goes in and honestly handles it very easily, unless this offense finds some way to move the football on the ground. If not, Tennessee's going to have 7-8 in the box. They're going to press on the outside, and they're going to dare Jackson Arnold to throw the football. And right now, that's not what they're doing well.
Welcome back in, everybody. This is the Blue Chip Breakdown, and we are your hosts, Bull. And you already know about Timmy G. We have a new guest with us today, Wolfman. And, of course, we're just going to be breaking down this ball game between our Tennessee Volunteers and the Oklahoma Sooners tonight. I believe it kicks off at 7:30, right, y'all? And I think that just what Jordan Rogers had to say right there about our Tennessee Volunteers pretty much sums up all of my thoughts for this whole stream. And we're going to get into all of it individually. First and foremost, gentlemen, how are we doing? How are we feeling about this game? Timmy G, I'm going to start off with you.
It's been a long week, man. It is crept by waiting for this game, and I'm excited. I'm pumped. It's the first big road SEC game to start the year at somebody who's new to the SEC coming in, and I'm ready for our guys to go out there and show out.
All right, cool. So, Wolfman, how you feeling, brother?
Well, I've been trying to resist the urge to give in to battered ball syndrome. Just really, the closer you get to the game, you start to get nervous and think about the bad what ifs. But just keep coming back to the fact that I just don't see our defensive line giving them anything. So at the end of the day, I just am hanging my hat on that. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I most definitely feel you, just because, of course, man, like, you always get a little bit of nerves heading into something because we see it on paper. We've seen both of these teams play, but what's really going to happen, like, we just don't know until they get out there and actually play. Now, I will say this. I'm confident because what I have seen from this team is very different, and it puts me in the mind of several championship teams. It feels a whole lot like 98, just like, Oklahoma hasn't been this much of a dog at home since 1998. And it's just like little hints like that I feel like if you've got battered ball syndrome, it should make you feel a little bit better. But the first thing that I really want to kind of like dive into is with Lance Hurd not going today, right? Because we feel like we've got a great front seven on both sides. But with Lance Hurd not starting at left tackle, now Dane Davis steps up. I want to get y'all's thoughts. How do y'all feel about that? Do y'all think that that's a major issue? Or is it just going to pretty much be, next man up and we're going to be just fine? Timmy G?
We'll see if it's an issue. I mean, I hope it's not. He's a 6-year guy. He's played a lot of football. I mean, we could be in way worse shape, right? You could be starting a true freshman. You could be, a lot of coaches would be glad to have a 6-year guy. I'm ready for it, man. And if things don't go well with him, I think we're going to run the 2 tight end set and bring in some extra blockers and make it happen. And who knows? Maybe that's what we're going to have to do anyways with how Oklahoma plays us. So let's see.
Yeah, Wolfman, what you think, bro?
Yeah, I'm with Tim on a lot of that. I think that if I'm a coach and I've got a 6-year guy that's played a lot of football, I'm feeling a whole lot better than throwing out, like the situation Oklahoma's in. They're playing guys on their offensive line that have almost no experience. And at least you'd rather have the 5-star talent for sure out there. But if he can't go, then you're putting some experience out there. And we've seen already this year that they want to use the 2 tight end set a little bit. And I think our running backs have gotten a lot better at pass pro. And so I think Heupel is the brain that he's got. I think he will scheme around that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get to the chat here real quick, see who all's in the house, see how everybody's feeling. Well, also, we're going to check on that poll here in just a second. But Ethan saying hello to everybody. What's going on, Ethan? Right here, UT Bad Gump says, go Big Orange, let's go. What's going on, brother? Happy to see you in here. Jay Ford says, you got that right. Scott V, who's another member of the channel. Thank y'all so much. Hey, listen, also, y'all, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel whenever y'all do come in. So Scott V says, let's go, guys. And he also says, what do you guys make of her being out? Yeah, so we just talked about that. And actually, I'm not done. I got a few more things to say about it. And then right here, UT Bad Gum says, I could go for Norm. I know, man. It's crazy. I was hoping that people wouldn't even notice that. But so he said that Hyper goes to Norman, drops a deuce in the wagon, and I want to add to this, but afraid you accidentally read it on there. Yeah. So you know what? He actually warned me about reading this stuff. So thank you for that. I'm definitely going through and
sometimes I read the chat and I know that me and that guy could be friends. I know me and him can be friends.
Funny stuff, man. All right, so let me kind of give my thoughts with Lantar being out. Is it a blow? I think that it is. Anytime that you have, especially your starting left tackle, not playing, I think he's probably one of the most talented, if not the most talented offensive lineman on this whole team. But to both of y'all's points, having Dane Davis coming in, who's a fifth-year senior, he's probably faced more first-round defensive linemen than Oklahoma has had in the history of their entire program. So I think that he is going to be prepared for this moment. He's played up against Georgia. He's played in every single type of atmosphere. And I think that he's looked pretty solid, especially on that right side. Now, one of my biggest questions is, will they try to switch John Campbell to the left and then move Dane to the right? Either way, I just feel like Oklahoma's front is good, but it's more like good for, like Big 12 ball. It's not, I'm not going to say that it's bad for SEC, but it's more like an average line. So I think that we'll still be able to kind of do what we like to do. Of course, that opening series, will we come out with that 12 personnel? Will we try to get some extra help? I think either way, we're still going to be able to do what we like to do. Like y'all was saying, Heupel is a genius with the offense, and he's going to have something planned up, right? Like you always have a few different game plans. So this might be game plan B, but game plan B, I think, is still good enough for us to go into Norman and have a very dominant showing for Oklahoma's first SEC opener. So we'll see how all that goes. Something else too, man. I want to talk a little bit about, what do y'all think the overall game plan is going to be for Coach Heupel? Because there's been so much talk about Oklahoma's defense being very versatile. And I don't know if y'all got to listen to Oklahoma's coach on College Game Day earlier today, but he sounded like he wants to blitz. Sounds like he will bring that pressure. So what do y'all think we can do to try to offset that? Or do y'all think that it's even going to be an issue with this offensive line?
Well, it could be an issue. We'll see. We'll have to see what happens. But I think like we talked about, I think the bringing in the 2 tight end set, 12th man, whatever, would definitely help prevent that. And not only that, I think it's going to create some openings for us. I think Heupel's going to come out and do what he always does. He's going to come out and he's going to establish the run. That's what he wants to do. And if he can establish the run, I think Oklahoma's in serious trouble. Because I've watched some footage on those guys. It looks like they'll switch up and go man. They had the Tulane guys in a couple of those plays I was watching. They were getting behind them, and they're putting linebackers on guys that are in the slot. You put a linebacker on Squirrel White, Squirrel's going to eat.
Facts.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think Heupel's going to do what he always does, and that is go fast and get them tired and not give them an opportunity to sub. And, as a drive, if we can get a couple of first downs and really start going fast, then that front that they've got, it's stuck out there on the field, they start to get really tired. And then that's when Heupel really starts to expose people when they're gassed, and he gets them a little sloppy. And I think that's what he'll do. I think that's what we've seen him do in the past with Alabama. with some of these defensive guys that are traditionally really strong defenses. He puts them in a bad situation as far as getting really exhausted, not being able to sub.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that we will run tempo. Now, the other part of Dane Davis, kind of stepping in for Lance Hurd is that now all of a sudden, and I mean, knock on wood, if anything does happen, now we don't have as much depth. And that, to me, is a little bit more of the concerning part. Also, our starters have only really played one full game. And, Campbell's been subbing in and out, him and Dane Davis. So some of those guys, how are they going to be able to last throughout this entire game? It is going to be very, very hot. Yeah. So I think that maybe we do kind of start off running some tempo. But at the same time, I think that Heupel understands that this is a long game. It's a very long season, and we need our guys. So if he notices that we're getting kind of tired, pretty much what he has done all season, he's going to slow it down. And I actually think that we might operate a little bit better when we do slow it down because everyone understands who to pick up. Everything has looked a lot cleaner just from as far as doing what you're supposed to do on each play. Whenever we do that, now with the tempo, of course, we're getting them kind of, like they have to get lined up, and it is difficult on their defense. But I think that we will see a pretty healthy mix of both. And I think that running game is going to be a major factor early on for both teams. And we will continue to talk about the offense. I'm gonna try to get to some more of these chats. I just want to make sure that we are letting everyone's voice be heard in here. Let's see what Jay Ford is saying. Ollie said Dane is good to go, so that's great to hear. Mike Harmon is saying, are we expecting a flip to Oregon from Utu? Sounds like it. And it would be great if he would. I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll change his mind, but yeah, I think that Utu is a really good player. That's just really bad news as far as I'm concerned. But hey, look, there's more players out there, so if that is the case, I know that the staff has some sort of a backup plan in place. John B says Hurd being out isn't optimal, but Dane knows the offense really well. Dane was serviceable versus Iowa. Yeah, I think he looked pretty good in that game. Now he was a little bit banged up in the Citrus Bowl too. So I'm sorry, in the Cheetah Bowl. So with him being healthier, I think that he's going to be just fine. I still expect for us to play like bullies, which is, I've seen him doing that too. I've seen him flying over piles, pushing people. So that's the main thing. It's that mindset, and I would say that's another factor overall that I see with Tennessee that I don't really see from Oklahoma. People talk about it, but I have yet to see them, really, really pop somebody over and over and over again whenever they come take on blocks on defense. It's not that it don't look like us, right? I mean, they are not like us, but especially up front, our offensive line versus theirs, that is night and day. So I think that that's going to be something else. Now, let me pull up some of these stats here real quick. We will be back into the chat. But this right here, this is Oklahoma's offense versus our defense. But we start off with our offense versus their defense. So let's just pull these numbers up. We can just kind of go off of that real quick. Y'all can see that obviously, man, with the total yards and with the scoring, we're blowing them out of the water. So much talk about, well, Tennessee hasn't played anybody, but neither has Oklahoma. They're talking about some of those teams, man. If Tennessee played them, we would beat them the same way that we beat everybody else. But again, them coming from that Big 12, they don't get it. Like those teams were good for y'all those were good wins in the Big 12, but SEC teams expect to kill those teams. So I think that they've got a little bit of growing to do from that perspective. And this is going to be their first wake-up call to how much of a difference it is week to week inside of this league. Right here, you see those passing numbers. I think that we will be able to pass the football effectively versus Oklahoma, especially if they want to do a whole bunch of blitzing. We're going to have stuff dialed up. People will be open. One-on-one coverage on the outside. Timmy G, you and I was just talking about this. Oklahoma's secondary is not great. They've got some really good safeties. Yeah. But in man-to-man coverage and really even in zone, we've seen them bust on their coverages. I think that Nico is going to have a really big showing today with his arm more so than anything else. And then I'm just going to kind of skim through all the rest of this rushing. Y'all know that we're going to run the football. Okay, that I don't know how they stop it. Maybe they can slow it down, but you're not going to stop Tennessee's running game. And that's going to be a big point of emphasis for them. I think that they will stack that box early on and, again, try to force Nico to throw. But, once we start to run on a heavy box, y'all already know that the game is over with. And then after that, third down, we're a lot better than they are. Red zone, we're a lot better than they are. And turnovers, they actually do produce turnovers. So that's something to kind of be leery of. But, again, they're playing up against just terrible teams. I don't think that that's going to be too much of an issue for us in this game. But with all of these kind of stats or, any of that, what do y'all think, man? Like, how do y'all think Nico's going to ball? Like, who do y'all feel like from the offense is going to have the biggest day? Maybe you could go top 3. Timmy G.
Top 3 on offense.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take Squirrel White. I think Squirrel's going to have a game. I think like we talked about earlier. I think they're going to mess up and put a linebacker out there to cover Squirrel, and it's not going to be pretty if that happens. I'm also going to take DeSamp. Until he doesn't, I'm going with that guy every time. He is the improvement that he's shown this year is phenomenal, and not only that, Bishop. I'm not taking him as one of my 3s, but that guy's impressed me more than anybody. He was a guy that wasn't even on the radar last year, and he's come in like letting you know if Sam leaves after this season, he's the man, right? I mean, that's the way it looks. Then Nico. I mean, those are my 3. That's the 3 I'm going with on offense. I'd love to see Brew get a tutty. I'd like to see Mike Matthews get in this game.
I think that he will.
We'll see what happens.
Yep. So, Wolfman, what you think, brother?
I was going to say Brew. Tim brought Brew up. Brew has had a tendency in his career to show up big in big games and make big plays in big games, in big moments. And this is the kind of stage that I think you could expect to see that. I think Dylan Sampson, as this season goes along, he's going to be a top 2 or 3, maybe top 5 running back in the country. So I expect him to have another just standard solid game. And I think Nico's going to have a nice game. I think, we talked about the 12 personnel and the 2 tights. I think you could see some 10 personnel and 4 wide to really empty out the box. You're talking about the heavy box. I think we may get into the 4 wide to try to empty out that box. And I think you may see Heupel use that bubble screen game on both sides of the field to try to maybe get Nico comfortable and get some little chunk plays and then set up the run that way. And that's where I think you could see Brew, Mike Matthews, Brazil, all those guys kind of get going with that bubble screen game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's probably going to be how we start off. You know what? I would love to see us do this early on in this game. I think that we've been saving it. But, man, if we could do like a fake quick screen and go, I think that's going to be open because they know that it's something that we like to do. Now, maybe you don't do it on the first play, but if you could kind of get them tired and some of that tempo stuff early on in that first drop, I think that will be open. I might go on ahead and just call my shot with that. I think that maybe we score our first touchdown off of a play very similar to that. Just because, again, man, I've seen their secondary pieces have some lapses in coverage and kind of peek into the backfield a little bit too much. They come up too quick. But I would say for sure, I've already kind of touched on it. But Nico, I think he's going to have a great game, not just passing, but also running. Sometimes he might have to if the play breaks down. I think that he will use his legs. Hopefully he slides more and he, gets himself out of bounds just a little bit more in this game. And I'm also going to definitely go with DeSamp. I think that maybe Oklahoma's defense might be keying in more on DeSamp, especially to start off over Nico, just because they want to stop Tennessee's running game. But people don't understand that DeSamp is a dog. He runs through tackles. He sets things up really, really well. And, I think to Wolfman's point, I feel like he is a top 3, at least top 5 running back in the whole league. And I think that he's going to prove that for the entire country tonight. But outside of that, I'm going to go ahead and go with Brazel. I think that Brazel is due. You know what I mean? I think that he's going to get open. He's tall, he's fast, he's long, he's rangy, and he's from Texas. He probably grew up hating Oklahoma or at least thinking about playing versus Oklahoma, right? So you would think that this is a game that he really gets up for. And of course, I know it's only supposed to be 3, but I want to put Brew into that too, because this is a Brew McCoy game. He is a dog. We will need some tough catches every now and then. And Nico's very comfortable throwing the football to him. So
let me say something too. If DeSamp does what I think he's going to do today, I fully expect to hear a DeSamp Heisman being brought into the Heisman talk. There's been some murmurs of it, but I think it'll become a real thing if he balls out this game.
Yeah, I do too, man. I do too. It seems like the media is watching us so much closer now that we can have some people that can really get into that conversation. But the thing about it is, if Nico balls out, he's gonna get precedent over DeSamp for the Heisman. So maybe they try to put both of them into that mix, because I think that both of them are worthy of that. Let's take a look right here, excuse me, at some of Oklahoma's key players on defense. And we all know about Danny Stutzman. I'll talk about him a whole lot. He's big. He's a lot bigger than I had first thought whenever I'm watching him on film. But he's about 6'4", 243, something like that. I think that he's a throwback, old school Mike linebacker. He's a pretty solid athlete, but I do feel like in space, we can win that matchup. And I saw it on film several times. I feel like I talked about it so much throughout this whole week. But, kind of like towards the end of the week, I heard more and more people talking about that. They've got one other linebacker that's pretty big like that. But he's not too good out in space. The only ones that they do have that are good in space are only like 210, 220 pounds. So I think that we will be able to run at those guys for sure. Next, they've got Robert Spears Jennings. That's going to be one of their safeties. He is really good, but I've seen him miss some of his run fits. I've seen him bust on some coverages. Same thing can be said about Billy Bowman Jr., who's also really good playing at safety. Those guys are going to try to come down and thump you, but I think that once you hit them back, then they'll slow up just a taste. They don't understand what's coming. This is SEC ball. It's smash mouth football. It's bully ball. Will they be able to sustain playing that, going back and forth for 60 minutes, right? That's going to be one of my biggest questions for this game. And then also, R. Mason Thomas, as a pass rusher, he's number 32. He's a smaller guy, but he's quick, okay? So if there is any concern with Dane Davis, is how is he going to hold up versus this guy? He's their only real threat as a pass rusher as far as I'm concerned. Maybe on plays like that, we try to chip him or, bring somebody else over. And then we've also got Grayson Halton, who is he is number 56 on their roster, and he's a pretty good pass rusher, but he's a tackle. So we'll see. I think that our guards and our center, obviously, Coop, they're both really good. But is there anything that we've talked about all week, or maybe that y'all have seen from some of their players on defense that y'all wanted to add? I know that they are getting back some more players, but is there anything that kind of stands out to you with their personnel groupings and some of those types of things with some of these players?
Well, I think
go ahead.
Go ahead, Steve. No, go ahead.
I know they've got a pretty big injury in their secondary, and that guy is listed as out again this week. And the biggest thing I look at, Oklahoma, this is their first season in the SEC. Do they have the speed on defense? We know that our offense has got elite speed. Our skill guys have a ton of speed. You just wonder, does their secondary and especially their linebackers, you're talking about that guy being a traditional Mike linebacker, is probably a little bit slower. Do they have the speed to really run with our guys if we get going downfield or we get into the second level in our run game? Can they match us with speed?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go. So yeah, that's what I was going to say. From watching some film on those linebackers are big, but they don't look fast. Yeah. And that's something that I promise you, Heupel saw that, and he's going to try to take advantage of that. That guy is an absolute surgeon when it comes to picking apart a defense. And when he smells blood, he's going to go for it. So I'm excited. I think they've got some guys. I don't know if you want to put that one up, but yeah, I saw that one a while back. Yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm excited. I think I just really don't see where Oklahoma outmatches us anywhere, and that's why I'm all about Tennessee, man. So
yeah, okay, cool. All right, so now let's flip it to the other side real quick, y'all, because this is why I think the game, just like Jordan Rogers said to start this off, this is why I think this game is really going to be a blowout. Oklahoma's offense versus Tennessee's defense. Listen, their offensive line, huh?
I said, that's it, man. You just summed it up.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So Oklahoma's offensive line, they probably will be getting back some more players, but I've watched them go at 100%. I'm just not impressed with those guys. Listen, we've got a top 3 defensive line. We've got waves of dudes. We're 14, 15 deep. I don't know how they're going to be able to block us for any portion of this game. I don't see how Oklahoma's offense can score. It's going to have to be on some sort of a busted play, trick play, something like that. They just do not have an offense that can sustain. This is the worst matchup. This is one of the worst that I've seen in a very, very, very long time. And it favors our Tennessee Volunteers, heavily. So I think that we'll be fine there. And then, our second level, those guys will be able to get downhill, hunt, and eat. We're going to stop their running game first. And I think that our secondary will hold up. Will they be tested some Oklahoma's going to try to, like they're going to have to. But I think that we get some interceptions in this one. People feel like Tennessee's going to turn it over, but I think that I think Oklahoma is in for maybe 2 or 3 major turnovers in this game. We'll see how quickly all that comes. But inside of my mind, y'all, I just feel like this is why the game will be over with pretty quickly. Do y'all have any thoughts on our defense versus our offense? Anything that just kind of stands out to you? Anything about the game plan? Anything that y'all just want to say? Maybe, just get off your chest to some of these OU fans.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say is look, we've talked about Oklahoma's offensive line. They know their offensive line is dinged up. There's my guy, Brian, aka Vic. They're in for a very long night, man. You're talking about running 12 to 14 guys, swapping out on those guys all night. And what they can do to them by the time this game gets into the third or fourth quarter, it's going to be wild. It's been a long time since Tennessee's had anything like this at D-line. You got to go back to the Fulmer era. And even then, I'm not sure that we were running – I'm not 100% sure we were running 12 to 14 guys. I think it might have been more like 10, 8. But they've got some guys. They're the guys that they're rotating in, they could be starting at other schools, at other SEC schools.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. And when you get down to the guys they're in that third rotation, after those first 2 rotations got a hold of you and those guys come in, man, it's going to be a long night.
Yeah.
I think you look at that third down line right there. If I'm an Oklahoma fan, that's what's terrifying me. I mean, they're only converting 1 out of 3. Tennessee's numbers probably a little inflated based on a couple of the teams that we've played. But I mean, you look at the NC State game, which was the better team that we played. I'm not sure they converted a third down after that first drive. So, and a third down, if you get stopped on third down and have to punt, that's essentially a turnover. I mean, it's you may get some field position gain there, but that line, that looks like a massive mismatch to me when you're looking at third down.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they're going to have an absolute and total just nightmare. I mean, they're going to have a really tough time trying to do anything offensively. At least we hope that that's the case. That should be what the case is. They will have some wrinkles for this game. They'll have some success maybe on a play or two, but you can't sustain 60 minutes in a game doing that type of stuff. It always comes down to just very basic stuff whenever you're talking about a full game, 4 quarters, 60 minutes. That's why I think that Tennessee, being the better team, especially on defense versus their offense, I mean, it should be very, very dominant for us. But these are their key players. We already know about Jackson Arnold leading the team in rush attempts and rush yards. Will he continue to do that in this game? He's going to have some runs, especially some of those quarterback draws or some quarterback power, things like that, just to get some extra numbers inside of the box. But, man, he needs to – I'm hoping that he's a little careful because I don't want to see nothing – I don't want to see him get injured, right? But, I mean, dude, we've got some dogs. I mean, from the second to the third level, even our safeties, Kobe Thomas coming downhill, Will Brooks, Andre Turrentine's been turning it on. So,
Peely.
Look at Carter, JT. Come on, man. All those guys.
You look at the way Peely was coming up and hitting the quarterback last week against Kent State. I mean, that's got to worry me. I've heard people say all week, well, Jackson Arnold may run all over Tennessee. I'm not sure he's going to do that with Keenan Peely coming into the backfield.
No. Yeah, and I think if that's your plan, that's a horrible plan. Yeah. That's not good. And matter of fact, the fact that he's your leading rusher, that's a horrible stat. That's not good.
It is. But Timmy, they can't do anything else. You know what I'm saying? Like that is their best play on offense. That's been their most consistent play. They really can't do much else. So that's back to what I keep on harping on. I don't know what they're going to be able to do. And then for him to people are seeing him kind of like run all over these, group of 5 teams. Our linebackers aren't just big and mean. They're very, very fast. Okay.
SEC
very
fast. Man.
Yes, this is SEC. So I don't see that working out for him either. But the next player right here is going to be Burns. He's number 2 on their roster. He's been their most productive running back up to this point. They've got another one, Tatum, right here. He's pretty good too. I think he's a true freshman. So he's pretty solid. I think he's leading them in yards per carry. And then outside of that, I've got Deion Burks up here. Then I've got Bauer Sharp. and they are supposed to be getting back Nick Anderson, who is a 6'4" wide receiver. I know that they're going to try to get the ball to him down the field, but you have to have time to, be able to get the ball down the field. I just don't know how often they will have that time to get it to him, and they're going to have to add some people into block. So we'll have extra people in coverage, and I just don't see anything that they're going to try to do on offense having success enough for them to be able to stick with Tennessee if Tennessee's offense doesn't absolutely get shut down. If our offense is, we'll say, I'm going to call it 60% of what it should be, right? I mean, even with Lance Hurd down, okay, so we'll take that down to about 52%. I mean, Tennessee will still win, I think, by 2 or 3 scores. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, but just because Oklahoma's offense it can't really do much of anything. So we're gonna get that on up out of there. And actually, it's getting close to time for the picks, real quick. But do y'all have any final thoughts for this game before we get into the picks for the rest of the country? And of course, last we will be doing our Vols for the game tonight versus Oklahoma.
Yeah, I got one thing I want to say. It is time to break out the shovel and bury your battered ball syndrome. Okay, like I think this is the game that hopefully puts that away. I just feel like this is a different team this year. They're playing different. There's a different level of confidence. And by the way, some of these coaches are acting that I've never seen act like this before. That tells me they know something that we just don't. And maybe, hopefully, we're about to find out tonight.
I think Heupel's a smart guy. He knows what kind of start we need to get off to. He knows in the past on some of these games in past seasons when we definitely didn't have the same talent, but he knows how we've gotten off to a slow start on some of these big road games in the conference. So I think he will be prepared for that, but we've got to get off to a fast start. And our defense needs to get off the field early in the game and not give up any sustained drives. But I think if those things happen, I think it's going to be a long night for Oklahoma.
Yep. I do too. All right, so I'm going to get to this poll because I know I've kind of skipped over here for a second. But right now, the poll is at 94% that Tennessee will win tonight. That's probably because we have a whole lot of Vol fans in here. But maybe some Oklahoma fans understand what's coming. And, of course, we have 6% for the Sooners to win. Now, it's not – I mean, nothing is guaranteed. You've got to go out and play the game. But as long as we do that, Tennessee should be fine in this one. So, yeah, just like Timmy G said, man, we gotta move on past that battered Vol syndrome. And we will also get the official status update. That's going to come, I think, like 90 minutes before kickoff. So we won't have an opportunity to talk about that in today's video. Now, let's take a look at the updated records right now. We've got, of course, I'm at 9-5, and P didn't get to pick last weekend. I do have his picks in for this weekend, and Timmy G is at 10-4. So we're going to start off right here with the first pick. It's going to be at noon. It's Clemson versus NC State. The game is going to be in Clemson, and I always do this stuff on Friday nights, so the lines may have changed some, but as of last night, it was Clemson favored by 18.5 points. The over-under is 44.5. Timmy G, who do you got in this one?
Well, my pick is going to be Clemson. I honestly want NC State to win just because.
Yeah, me too.
Number one, because we played them, and number two, because it's Clemson. That's enough for me. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think Clemson does have a pretty good defense, and I think it's going to be a little much for NC State. And I think what Heupel and the way those guys acted after they played us, like it, man, when you get beat like that, it does something to your mindset, and it damages your confidence, and that's not good because to be a good ball club, man, you've got to have confidence. And I think I broke some of that, but yeah.
Yep. So, all right. So you are going to take Clemson in this game.
Sure.
Wolfman, who are you taking in this?
I'm going to take Clemson. I do think NC State is better than everybody maybe thinks they are. I think that I think they've had a rough couple of weeks. They kind of got it together in that game last week. They were trailing and then ended up winning. I think if this game were in Raleigh, I think they might have a little better shot at pulling off the upset. But with it being at Clemson, I think Clemson's going to pull it out.
Yeah. I feel like Clemson probably should win this game. One of my biggest questions, though, is NC State's going to be starting that freshman quarterback. I think his name is CJ Bailey. I didn't realize that he's from South Florida, and y'all know how I feel about all them South Florida boys. I think that they're dogs.
I did not realize that when I made my pick. If I'd have known that, I might have went the other way.
Yeah, so I think, or at least I think he's starting in this game. But if he does start, okay, I'm gonna say that NC State might actually be able to upset Clemson. Now, I do think that Clemson has a good front seven to have a good defense, and I'm just gonna, for the daggum heck of it, I'm gonna pick NC State to upset Clemson in this game coming up here at noon. Now, the next game is going to be at 3:30. This is another big one. We got Michigan versus USC. The game's going to be in Ann Arbor. And as of last night, USC was favored by 4 points. The over-under is 43.5. Timmy G, who do you got in this one?
Oh, wow.
Hold on. I'm sorry about that, Timmy G. I did not give y'all P's pick, but P did pick Clemson to win in the NC State game. All right, so we got that one in. But go ahead, Timmy G.
I hate to say it, but I'm going to take USC in this one. I don't really particularly care for either of these teams. As you see, I hate everyone who's not Tennessee. That's going to be the moral of my story here. But no, I don't know, man. Is it in Ann Arbor or is it? That might change things. You know what? I'll take Michigan. Let's see what happens. I'll take Michigan if it's in Ann Arbor.
Okay. All right, Wolfman, who you got?
I'm going to take USC. Michigan looked pretty bad in their game against Texas, and USC in that game against LSU. I think it was LSU, but USC looked really good in their one big game. I just think they're probably, they're going to score more points. They're going to be a little bit more high-powered offense, and I think they'll take care of Michigan.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of want to pick USC in this one, and let me just give y'all P's pick first. P picked Michigan for this game. You know what? There's a part of me that thinks this is actually a really, really good matchup just because it sounds like Michigan is planning on pretty much not even worrying about passing, period, and they're going to try to just ground and pound USC. Now, USC looked good versus LSU, like you said, Wolfman, but we all know that LSU ain't that good this year, so I'm curious, how for real is USC? This game should tell the tale. I do feel like maybe, they should have more production on offense, but really Michigan's defense ain't bad. They've got a really good secondary. I think they've got an underrated pass rush up to this point in the season. So I'm kind of going back and forth, but I'm just going to go on ahead and pick USC because I don't really like Michigan. I don't have too much of a problem with USC. So I'm going to go ahead and roll with USC in this game. Let's go on to the next one right here. We've got Georgia Tech versus Louisville. The game starts at 3:30. It's going to be in Louisville, and they are favored by 10 points. The over-under 57.5. Timmy G, who you got in this one?
I'm taking Louisville in this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Simple enough.
That's it. That's all I got on that one, brother. Give me Louisville.
All right. Wolfman, what you think?
So this is one when I was doing some research, I found a really interesting stat. This new head coach at Georgia Tech is 5-0 against ranked ACC teams.
Okay.
And he's upset every single one that he's played that was ranked. So I'm going to take Georgia Tech to pull off the upset. Apparently this coach can get them up for the big game. So that's what I see happening.
All right.
Yeah, you know what? First off, that's great. That's great info. And also, if you just look at the leaders in passing in this game, rushing and receiving, it's all Georgia Tech. I think that seeing that the Georgia Tech's quarterback is close to 1,000 yards with 6 touchdowns and only 1 pick so far this season. I mean, I think that looks pretty good. Now, we did see him versus Florida State. They will run the football. I think that they're really good at that. I haven't watched much of Louisville. So in this one, I'm going to go with Tech, and P is also picking Tech. Let's go on to the next one. We've got at 3:30 LSU versus UCLA. And LSU is favored by 22.5 points. The game is going to be in Death Valley. And the over-under is 56.5. Timmy G, who you got for this one?
Well, it's at Death Valley, one of the toughest places. But it's only a 3:30 game. They won't be that liquored up by then. But I'll take LSU. But I just don't think LSU. I don't know if LSU is good enough to put up to cover.
Yeah.
So I'll take LSU to win, but I don't think they cover the points. We'll see.
Okay, Wolfman.
I'm going to take LSU. I don't think LSU is going to have a great season in the SEC, but this UCLA team is not good. They are rebuilding basically from the ground up that program, and they had a really tough outing their last time out. I just don't think they have. They're walking into a pretty tough situation going into at LSU. So I'm taking LSU.
Yeah, I'm going to take LSU as well. I think UCLA, like you said, man, they've got some problems. And actually, P did not give me a pick for this one, so we're going to skip that for him. But the next one is going to be Utah versus Oklahoma State. The game is going to be at 4 o'clock. It's going to be in Stillwater, and Utah's favored by 1 point. The over-under is 54.5. Now, I've heard that that Cam Rising might not play for this game. That's Utah's quarterback. So if that's the case, what do y'all think about this game? Starting off with Timmy G.
I'll take OSU. I don't know that much outside of OSU's coach is an absolute wild card. He's provided some of the wildest memes over the years. So just for that reason alone, I'm going for him.
Okay.
But hey, that's all I got on that one.
All right, Wolfman, what do you think?
Yeah, again here I look at what's happened so far this year, and you can't put everything on that because college football is volatile from week to week. But Oklahoma State has played in a pretty big game with Arkansas that came down to the wire. They had to grit it out, find a way to win that game. So they're a little more battle tested, I think, than Utah, and they've got this game at home. And Utah's quarterback is questionable, so I think Oklahoma State's going to take care of this one.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with y'all. I think that I might pick Oklahoma State, but the only thing about it is whenever I watch Oklahoma State play, it seems like a lot of what they want to do is just run the football over and over and over again. The one thing that I can say about Utah is that they're big, especially up front on both sides. They're strong. They're not very fast. I think that they do match up well versus Oklahoma State. And I don't believe in Oklahoma State, period, point blank. So I'm going to just be different, and I'm going to pick Utah to win this game with or without Cam Rising. Let's go on to the next one. We've got Vandy versus Mizzou. The game's going to be at 4:15, and it's going to be at Missouri. Missouri's favored by 20 points. The over-under is 52.5. Timmy G, what do you think about this one?
I'm going to go with Dorkwitz.
Okay.
You see a common theme with me. I dislike a lot of these people, and he's one of them. But no, I think Vandy's way outclassed here, and Missouri will handle this game without much issue. I would love it for Vandy to pull an upset. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I got you. Wolfman, what you think?
I'm with him. I would love to see Vandy win. And I think Vandy's going to beat some people that it's going to really put pressure on their coaches. I think Kentucky, South Carolina, I think a couple of those teams could find themselves losing to Vandy. But I don't think Vandy's winning this game. I think Missouri's got too much, and it's at Missouri. I'd like to see it, but I think Missouri's going to take care of this one.
Yeah, so P and I are on the same page with y'all. I do think that Mizzou wins, but I think that Vandy might kind of keep this one a little bit close. I mean, maybe not. Maybe that's just wishful thinking. But I wasn't impressed with what I saw from Dork and his whole bunch last week versus Boston College. So we will see what happens with it. And, of course, this is the big one right here, y'all. At 7:30, we've got our Vols. The game, of course, is in Norman. And we were favored by 6.5. I don't know how much that line has moved up to this point, but the over-under is 56.5. Timmy G, go ahead and talk your talk, brother.
Tennessee all the way, buddy. That's that. I think if you wanted me to tell you a game that I think this is going to look like, I think it's going to look like the 2022 LSU game. Yeah. It's away. It's got a big crowd to start. I think Tennessee can come out there and jump on them early, and hopefully send a lot of that crowd home in the third quarter. That's what I hope. I just don't think they match up with us well anywhere, especially at the offensive line, and that is our strength this year. Our strength, is our offense good? But think about this. All the games that we played, we haven't played our best game yet.
That's right.
We have not. Nico hasn't thrown his best game yet. Is it going to be today? Maybe. But Tennessee all the way. And I think it can be big as well.
Okay, so actually, I would like for y'all to give me a final score on this one too.
Okay, I'll take. I'll go 44-14.
I like that. I like that. Wolfman, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this game is going to kind of maybe go a little bit like the NC State game. I think it's going to seem like it's a decent game, but as time goes on, as the game's going along, Tennessee's just going to be pulling further and further away, and just kind of slowly burying them as the game is going. So I think I'm like Tim. I think in the second half, Tennessee's really going to start to put a gap, and it's going to be one of those games where Herb Street and Fowler are starting to talk about the rest of the schedule, the rest of the year, and we're going to be pulling away. So I've got 38-14 Tennessee.
All right, hey, I absolutely like that one too. So P, of course, is going to be picking the Vols. I did not get a final score from. Oh, you know what? Actually, I did get a final score. I think he said 33-3 or something. Let me see. I was like, how are they going to score 3 points, P? Let me see. All right, so his was 34-3. So of course, I think we all feel like Tennessee should dominate in this game. I think that both of y'all hit it. It's probably going to start off with Oklahoma just giving us their best. They will have some good game plans because they've got a really good coaching staff. I think that they've got good players. It's just a bad matchup. You need to have some dudes up front to, be able to play with the upper echelon in this league. I don't think that they're there just yet. Now, maybe their defense is kind of starting to get there, but their offensive line is nowhere near it. So I think that Tennessee will have a field day. I'm going to say, man, I probably would have said 50 if Lance was playing, but since he's not, I'm going to go 48. I'm going to go Vols get 48 in this one, and I'm going to actually go with OU getting 6 just because I think they will get maybe a couple of field goals, and that's going to be later on in this game as we're playing some of our depth pieces. So that's the way that I see this thing playing out. And thank y'all so much, Timmy G and Wolfman, for joining us today. Y'all are always awesome. And thank you to everyone else that joined us today. And we will be back post-game just to talk about this whole thing. Hopefully it'll be just a celebration and everyone can just voice their thoughts. But let's go ahead and get to the rest of the day. You know what? There is one more game that I didn't put on here just because I didn't see, but Arkansas is playing Auburn today. So I don't know what time that one starts, but we have to watch that one closely because we got Arkansas coming up in a couple of weeks. Go ahead.
Let me say one thing out of the door. Listen, guys, subscribe to the channel, get a membership. Bull offers the best bang for buck on content for a membership than any other channel I've seen. It's not just emojis. He's giving you videos, multiple videos. He hits me with so many videos on some days that I can't even keep up. And that's saying something because all I do is watch Tennessee content all day long. And he's got really great analysis, and he's a hard worker, and he deserves it. So that's all
I would co-sign. This is well done, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. And we will see y'all here in, I don't know, it's probably about like 10 hours or so. So hopefully everything goes well. Go Big Orange. And if you will be at the game, make sure that y'all keep it loud for our team. And y'all make sure that y'all stay out of trouble. We'll see y'all in just a minute. Peace.